and I had my daughter with me. And I said, "Oh, this is my friend." And she shook my daughter's hand and said, "Hi, it's nice to meet you." And she said, "If you please excuse me, I have to take this phone call." And she walked off. And my daughter looked at me and she said, "Mom, you know who that is?" And I said, "Yeah, that's the friend, the woman I was telling you about." And she said, "No, that's that crazy woman who lived with my dad." And every hair on my body stood on end.
I'm Jaimie Beebe.
And I'm Jake Deptula. On today's episode of Strictly Stalking, we're chatting with Claire, who reveals that she and her daughter were stalked by her ex-husband's girlfriend.
After divorcing her husband, Claire and her daughter began receiving harassment at the hands of his new girlfriend.
Claire's stalker left her dozens of voicemails commenting on how ugly she dressed, how little money was in her bank account, and threatened her with sensitive information she was privy to through Claire's ex-husband.
Her stalker even attempted to secretly pick up Claire's daughter after school, but her efforts were luckily prevented.
Years later, Claire's stalker attempted to re-enter her life through one of the most unexpected ways, by becoming her co-worker. Claire, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Claire, how did your life change after your divorce?
So I was in my early 30s. It was an amicable divorce. We had a 5-year-old daughter. We agreed that this was no longer about us. It was about how we helped our daughter to adjust. We both started dating other people. And my thing was I really wanted to like who he dated because they would spend time with my child. We worked really well together with that. We, to this day, are great friends. I like him so much better when we're not married. So we do have a great relationship, except for this period of time with the stalking.
When did you find out about your ex-husband's new girlfriend? So
I'm going to say probably he had dated some other women. And I think probably a couple years into it, our separation, he did meet this woman. He later let me know that they were moving in together. At that time, the visitation schedule was he would get our daughter every other weekend. And so they lived together for about a year. During that time, drop off and pick up and all of that, she was never there. I never met her. I never saw pictures of her. It started out cordial. And then it just progressed. And she actually started with my daughter. She started bullying her. She would badmouth me in front of her. And this is a 5-year-old, 6-year-old little girl who, she doesn't understand any of this. She doesn't know what's going on. She certainly is not comfortable with this woman talking bad about her mom. So it just kind of progressed to the point where my daughter no longer wanted to go. She did have a really good relationship with her dad, but she chose to give that up because of this woman.
Did you think that she was trying to avoid you?
In the beginning, I really didn't pay that much attention. And then it became like, it's just too weird. And then it was like right before I got there, like I'd see her car leaving. It was intentional at that point, but that's probably 6 months into it. She went and bought a wedding dress and specifically showed it to my daughter and said, this is my dress for when your dad and I get married. Don't tell your dad. There was just so many things. And I got to the point where, my daughter, it just became a bigger deal every single time she was supposed to go, and the crying and all of that. And it's like, as a parent, you just feel horrible. Like, nope, you have to go. You have to go see your dad, to where it triggered something for me that there was something else going on. And so I did have a huge conversation with her one day while she was having this tantrum. And she was supposed to go to her dad's, and she let me know that this woman, she said she had a headache, but she had 2 boys and they were playing, and my daughter was on the couch with them, and she threw a pot of hot soup at all of them because they were making too much noise. And at that point, Now that's it. And so at that point, she stopped going to her dad's completely. And then that's when she blocked our phone number so that my daughter was unable to call. There was no way to connect with him for school plays, for any of that. And then that's when because my daughter was no longer around, and that's when she directed her attention towards me.
Can you kind of walk us through when your stalker tried to kidnap your daughter?
So my daughter would go to her grandmother's house every day after school, which was her dad's mom. And when I made this arrangement, I was very specific with her, with the grandmother, that this is only going to work if you are able to tell your son no if he tries to pick her up. And if you're not okay with that, just tell me right now and I will make other arrangements. But no one is to pick her up from here but me, unless you hear different from me. And she said that was fine. And so I was at work one day and I got a phone call, and she said that this woman, I believe they were still living together at the time, but said that she had called her and said that her son was working out of town, but it was his weekend to have our daughter. So she was going to come pick her up for him. And I left work immediately because to me, at that point, I honestly felt that, the way she was thinking was if she got rid of our daughter, I would have no reason to have any more contact with him. And that was really her goal. And I thought you're going to pick her up, you're going to kill her, you're going to drop her off in the country, and then your life is perfect. So I'm so thankful that my ex-mother-in-law did call me and gave me the opportunity to go pick her up. I was able to make contact with my ex-husband that day. He was not out of town. He did not ask her to pick up our daughter. And that's frightening to me. Because you're going to go pick up my kid, and then what are you going to do with her? You were not asked to do it. You can't cover that lie, so you just, no. I think part of it was, he would listen to her tell him these things about me and things that I'm trying to do to break them up. That never happened. And so I don't know how much of it he believed or thought like I was overreacting, if you will.
What did your ex-husband say about all of this?
And that was the thing. There was really no way for me to communicate with him. And so in my head, I'm thinking, there's no way he can know that this is going on. I was thinking, there's no way he can know that she's doing all of this. But I didn't have any way to connect. I couldn't call him. She had blocked all phone numbers. And then I think, too, it was uncomfortable for him. And they live together, and I'm not just going to go on and just bash her. I can say that, so I just basically, my daughter was removed from the situation, and then she went after me. She had access to my social security number. We had a house built prior to this, and she had obviously come across all that information. She would call my bank and move money from checking to savings. And I think all of this was just, she wanted me to, and then she would call and tell me what she did. She would call and tell me that shirt that you're wearing makes you look fat. You shouldn't wear that anymore. She made it very clear that she and multiple people were following and watching me. It was constant. It was the middle of the night. It just, and there was no point. And so I finally I realized with her that she thrives off of the negative attention as well. So I stopped. I tried to stop. I had to unplug answer machines, disable voicemails on my home phone, because leaving her the ability to leave a message was still enough for her.
Whether you're working from home or working on your fitness, you want what you're listening to be what you're listening to, not what your neighbor's kids are listening to. Everyone needs a great pair of wireless earbuds.
But before you drop hundreds of dollars on a pair, check out wireless earbuds from Raycon.
Raycon earbuds start at about half the price of any other premium wireless earbuds on the market. and they sound just as amazing as other top audio brands that you know.
Their newest model, the Everyday E25 earbuds, are their best ones yet. They have 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, and a more compact design that gives you a nice, noise-isolating fit.
Raycon's wireless earbuds are so comfortable, perfect for conference calls or binging your favorite podcast.
Using Raycon's wireless earbuds on my phone for calls is a game changer for me because I'm always on the go and I need something I can count on.
Unlike some of your other wireless options, Raycon earbuds are both stylish and discreet. No dangling wires or stems to distract anyone during video calls.
The company was co-founded by Ray J, and celebrities like Melissa Etheridge and Mike Tyson are obsessed with Raycons.
Now's the time to get the latest and greatest from Raycon. Get 15% off your order at buyraycon.com/stalking.
That's buyraycon.com/stalking for 15% off Raycon wireless earbuds.
buyraycon.com/stalking.
From the time she first started stalking you, how many months was she into this by this point when you had to unplug?
So I'm going to say, so they lived together for about a year. And I think my daughter probably after the first 3 months stopped going. So then the rest of she had zero contact with her dad because of this. So 3 months into this is when my daughter stopped going, she directed her attention towards me. So that continued the entire time they were together. Then all of a sudden one day it just stopped. And it was like, I heard the angels sing. I am not going to lie. And there was probably I'm going to say a 3 to 4 month period where there was not one single phone call. And it was beautiful. And I later found out that her mom had her committed. So she wasn't able to call me. The minute she got out, it started. And the phone call started with, she was trying to tell me that my ex-husband was stalking her, that he was showing up at her place of employment. He was waiting for her in the parking lot. And I would just hang up. And it's like, why would you call me if you were having an issue? Why I'm not your friend. And then it's the same thing started all over again.
Jaimie, how are you enjoying your new king-size Helix Sunset Luxe mattress?
Well, it's super comfy and I'm sleeping better than ever, but it gets a little crowded some nights.
I was asking about the mattress, not your dating life.
Jake, I'm talking about my bed being so comfy that both my dogs and my cat have been climbing in bed with me at night.
Ah, got it. I should probably get a dog.
Helix Sleep makes personalized mattresses made right here in America and ships straight to your door with free no-contact delivery, free returns, and a 100-night sleep trial.
To choose a mattress, Helix made a quiz that takes just 2 minutes to complete, matches your body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you.
If you like a mattress that's really soft or firm, you sleep on your side or your back of your stomach, or you sleep really hot, or with 2 dogs and a cat, with Helix, there's a specific mattress for each and everybody's unique taste.
I took the quiz and was matched with the Helix Midnight Luxe because I wanted something a little more firm.
We love Helix, but you don't need to take our word for it. Helix was awarded the #1 best overall mattress pick of 2020 by GQ, Wired Magazine, and Apartment Therapy.
Just go to helix.com/stalking, take their 2-minute sleep quiz, and they'll match you with a customized mattress that will give you and whoever you're sleeping with the best sleep of your life.
They have a 10-year warranty, and you get to try it out for 100 nights risk-free. They'll even pick it up for you if you don't love it, but you will.
Right now, Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders.
Get up to $200 off at helixsleep.com/stalking.
Claire, did your husband reach out to you during the time that he wasn't seeing his daughter?
Not that I remember.
Once you found out that she was committed, then what happened?
Well, then it was quiet and it was beautiful. And then it started again. And so at that point, they were no longer together. He had no idea where she was. There was no communication between the two of them. I don't know what happened with their relationship. I don't know if it ended horribly. But it was never really about him. Her issue was really me. And so, much later, it's, she still believes that she would be with him if it weren't for me, that I was doing something behind the scenes, that I was trying to get him back. I was already in another relationship with my husband that I'm married to now. It was never that.
Was there ever an opportunity that you reached out to her to try to meet her before all this happened?
No, and I never thought that she was. It took a while for me to realize she was intentionally avoiding me. So it didn't. If she's there, fine. If she's not, fine. Um, and probably maybe the first two conversations we had were cordial. They were not after that. She was not okay with any communication between my ex-husband and myself, and we communicated only about our daughter. She was not okay with any of that.
After the relationship ended, did your ex-husband and your daughter reconnect?
They did. They did. And I think it was, it's an awkward situation. So you're trying to make this relationship work. She's, portraying I am intruding in their life and making it difficult when it's really, here's your daughter, she just wants to be a part of your life. But it is what it is, it happened. And
after they broke up, how long was she stalking you at that point?
So every day, I'm going to say for 3 or 4 months, and then she would go away for a little bit, and then she would come back. And then she would go away, and she would come back. I never felt like she was gone.
What kind of stuff was she doing during that time?
So it was just the calls. It was the constant, moving money and just, I can't even. And then when I completely cut off contact, then she went to people around me and tried to do it that way. She tried to get at me through other people. And then she went away. So then after that period of time, she went away for probably, I'm going to say 2 years, where I didn't hear from her at all. And then at that point, I thought this was done. So then I'm at work one day and I have to call this woman because I need her boss's signature. And I call and she was very friendly. She says, come pick me up. He's off site, but I will go get his signature for you. I know you have a deadline. And I thought, my gosh, that's so helpful. I really appreciate this. So I went and picked her up. She got in my car, took her, got the signature. And the next day she called and said, I think I left my keys in your car. I think they fell out of my purse. And so I went and looked and she came and picked them up. And then it was, your hair's really cute. I need a new hairdresser. Where do you go? Oh gosh. Okay. So I tell her who my hairdresser is. And then she started emailing me. And this continued. And then it was just like, I got to a point where, like, I even told a coworker, like, she wants to be my friend so bad. And I don't know why. Like, it's off-putting to me. And there were just certain things that just felt uncomfortable. And she would go out of town on the weekend and come back and come to my office and bring me a gift that she bought. And it's like, we're not that kind of friend. Like, it was just uncomfortable. And I remember telling people, like, she knows that I'm in a relationship. She was married at the time, but I honestly started to think that maybe she wanted to date me because it was that weird. It was that, she was just trying way too hard. And so that went on for a couple years. And so the emails back and forth, and then she would ask questions about my previous marriage. And that to me was, I don't know why that matters. I don't know why you're asking these questions. And so they were kind of generic answers. And she would call and want me to meet for coffee. And I didn't, because I didn't feel comfortable. Like, it felt weird to me. And so National Take Your Daughter to Work Day, I had taken her every day or every year. So she went with me and I had to actually go to this building to drop off something. And when I walked in, she was there and I had my daughter with me. And I said, oh, this is my friend. And she shook my daughter's hand and said, hi, it's nice to meet you. And she said, if you please excuse me, I have to take this phone call. And she walked off. And my daughter looked at me and she said, Mom, you know who that is? And I said, yeah, that's the friend, the woman I was telling you about. And she said, no, that's that crazy woman who lived with my dad. And every hair on my body stood on end. And I followed her to her office. Her door was shut and I beat on the door. She refused to open it, which is good. Like, I would have lost my job at that point. Um, and so I left, and it's the most horrible feeling that, like, at this point, she was at my hairdresser, my orthodontist, my manicurist. She had infiltrated my life. And it started, it's just like this. If somebody asks you, oh, I really like your hair, who do you go to? Why wouldn't you tell them? But then anyway, so I went back to my office and I emailed her and I said, this is really weird. My daughter said that you look exactly like the woman who dated her dad. And she came back with this giant email and said, I had no idea who you were when I met you, which is complete bullshit because my name had not changed at that point. She knew where I worked. I now believe that she got that job because I worked there. So she sent this email and said she had no idea who I was. And when she finally figured it out, she was scared to tell me because she really liked me and wanted to be my friend. I basically at that point said, do not ever contact me again. And then it got weird.
After you confronted her about who she was, what happened next?
She continued to email me, trying to explain, trying to tell me why she did what she did. And I would delete her emails without reading. She would approach me in the parking lot. I would stop her right away, and we have security behind our building. And I was like, I'd yell for security just so she would be embarrassed and go away. I am not talking to you. I'm not doing this. And so at this point, honestly, like, I'm not a person who, I just don't trust everybody. And so for this was like the ultimate betrayal for me. It's like, you don't come at me. You completely lied about who you were for 2 years, like 18 months to 2 years. And then you want me to be your friend. It's like, it's no. And I don't want anything to do with you. At this point, I realized that this is a mental illness that I am not trained in. And so I knew, like, she loves the negative attention almost probably better than if I was her friend. And so I knew at that point, like, that's it. There's nothing. And so she continued to try to get to me through emails, and she would say things that she knew would make me mad to get me to respond. And it was hard. It was hard sometimes. Then she went after my daughter.
Did you ever reach out to your husband and tell him that she was the one you were working alongside?
So, yeah. So then that came out, and it was just, it's weird. It's a weird story. And, like, what's he going to do at that point? I mean, other than, gosh, that's weird. That's interesting. I mean, and then for me to say out loud, I think she got this job because of me, because she knew I worked there. It sounds weird. Where some people just go, okay.
When did she go after your daughter after she re-entered your life?
So this went on my daughter's entire childhood. So it started when she was 5, 6 years old. And then when my daughter was 18, I think that's when, so my current husband's ex-wife, we were not friends. But she did reach out to me to let me know that this woman had sent her in excess of 25 friend requests on Facebook. She kept declining them because she had no idea who this person was. And then she gets this giant email that just went on and on about me and what a horrible person I am, and that if it weren't for me, she would still be with my ex. And she wanted her to know that, and that I was trying to get him back while I was with her husband. And it's like, which they were divorced. It sounded like I was with the husband. And so she said, like, this woman is unstable, and I think you should know. The fact that her and I were not friends, she was not a giant fan of me, for her to reach out to me like that, then I knew, like, she knew it was not okay. So, and then at that point, it's hard for an 18-year-old to, I can say as an adult, I'm going to completely ignore her because I know that she is feeding off this negative attention. it's harder for an 18-year-old to do that when you are getting messages that are shitty. She would say things to get my daughter to respond, and she did. And I happened to be at a dinner theater with my mom one night, and the waitress came up and said, "You have a phone call that you need to take in the kitchen." And I went to the kitchen, and all I hear is my daughter hysterically crying. And I'm screaming at everybody. They're washing dishes, they're doing what they do. And I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, "Shut up, I can't hear," because I had no idea what was going on. And this, this grown woman is entertaining this back and forth that she was doing with an 18-year-old. And my daughter called the police. They came and left before I was able to get home. Nothing happened. No crime had been committed. And then that was it. At that point, you don't go after my kid. And so I filed a police report. I got the temporary restraining order, and then we waited for court.
What was that process like when you called the police and filed for the restraining order and got it?
It's weird how I did it. So I typed up this great big, I just needed the documentation. And so I was on my way to the gym one night, and there was a police car driving through the parking lot, and I flagged them down. And I gave them what I typed up. I made my police report at that time. I felt at that point that this was escalating. She was probably more unstable than I felt like she had been this whole time. And so I did that. And it's like, I don't know, at that point, had she threatened me? Had she done any of that yet? I mean, I didn't think that there was anything that they could do, but I wanted some sort of documentation. And I felt like we were getting close to the point where she might do something might happen. I got a report filed, and then I filled out the paperwork for the restraining order. And so I have no idea what I'm doing. A friend of ours is an attorney. So I did. He was very nice, and I went to his office. He said, "This is what you have to prove." And we made and I said, "This is what I've already turned in." He said, "You have proved that with your information." I did it wrong because I didn't include that police report when I filed the restraining order. So when we went to court, I had to, very first thing, make sure that they accepted that.
So when your daughter called you frantically, what did she tell you?
So what I could hear was it was something with this woman, and that the police were called. And at that point, there was so much going on in this kitchen. They're washing dishes. They're talking. They don't care that my daughter's on the phone screaming. And I left. I went home. And so by the time I got home, I didn't hear the story at all. I knew it was her, and I knew police were called. So I left. And by the time I got home, the police had come and gone, and basically nothing had happened. And I don't know if she had said something that led my daughter to believe that she was going to do something. I don't know if it was my daughter was just frustrated at that point, like she needs to stop. And the way to do that is to call the police. They were kind of going back and forth through Facebook Messenger, I believe. And, it's like, "You're a grown woman." And she turned it into, she was saying things that she knew was going to make my daughter mad and continue this conversation with her. And I think what my daughter said at the time afterwards was that she wanted us to be afraid. And then, she laughed about it. So, and I think that's what probably prompted the call. And at that point, this is my daughter's entire childhood, and she's afraid that something's going to happen to me.
And what happened after you got the restraining order?
So I got the temporary restraining order, and then we had a court date. They included, the friend of ours recommended that on the restraining order, it include myself, my daughter, my ex-husband, probably my current husband, just because of all the harassment and all of that. And so we got to court, and she showed up with her husband, and she came with 2 signed depositions from friends of hers that she bought them gifts to do this. Like, I didn't even, the one person I knew, the other woman I'd never even met in my life, and she's saying all of these things that I've done. It's like, you don't even know who I am. You don't even know what I look like. But so during this process, when I looked up records, she has done this to somebody before. I couldn't get the details, because I think that the same thing happened. The emergency restraining order was issued, and when it came right down to it, it didn't happen. But there was a woman probably 6 years prior to me. So in court, basically what it came down to, I said what I had to say. My daughter was next to me. She said what she had to say. She was in the process of her job was being eliminated. And her concern was that she did not want to be in the system while she was trying to find a new job. She's a professional. She speaks well. She's very knowledgeable about this court process, where I wasn't. And basically the judge said, would you both agree to stay away orders? And I said no, because I kind of felt like I'm here, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. These are the steps I'm supposed to take. And I now have to have something on my record to get her to leave me alone. And I felt like it was just victimizing me again. And I said no, and the permanent restraining order was not granted.
Did anything come up in the case about her mother having committed her previously?
That was mentioned, and she then accused me of accessing medical records illegally to get this information, which I did not. My ex-husband is the one who told me that she was committed after that her mother had her committed. So that did come up. I also brought up the previous stalking case in court, and she had this little side conversation with the judge and said, you can look it up. This happened, and I didn't know what that meant, but somebody got a temporary restraining order for the same thing that was later dismissed, like mine was. So she's not brand new to this.
What happened after you left court?
So after we left court, and it's been 10 years with a no contact from her. This went on for probably 12, 13 years. And like I said, she would go away for a year at a time and then come back with a vengeance. She would try to get to me from outside sources. And I just blocked all access the best I could. And then it's been 10 years right now. Do I feel that she's completely gone? Absolutely not. She will pop back up.
What's your relationship like with your ex-husband now?
We're great friends. We have been pretty much this whole time, with the exception of that period of time that he lived with her. So, he remarried, had another daughter. She spends a ton of time. We bake together every year at Christmas. He has a good relationship with my husband. We're good friends. And she was never going to be okay with that. I don't know. I don't feel like I feel like she's still living in the same place. I feel like she's not gone from my life. And that sounds weird to say because it's been 10 years with no contact, but that's how she does it.
What happened with the workplace? Does she still work there?
So, no. So there were some departments that merged. Her job was actually eliminated. The person in her position with the other part of the merge had seniority. So I think she actually went out on disability. Like, she knew her job was going to be, but she no longer works there.
Claire, what advice do you have for somebody that's going through this situation?
So my advice, just don't make excuses for how you respond to this, because this is not normal. This isn't normal behavior. And you're talking about a mental illness that very few of us are trained in. And so we all respond to it differently. And to me, like, unless you've actually experienced this and this is your life, you take the phone call because you have to gauge the level of crazy. Like, are you starting to decompress right now? Do I need to be more concerned? I need to know where you're at. And so there were certain, I knew that with her, I needed to completely stop all contact. But at the same time, there were, she would send the emails and I made sure I was on message preview so I could read them before deleting them because I need to gauge where you're at. Like, is today the day you're going to come after me? Because we're at that level right now. And so, but then she also fed off of that. She wanted us to be afraid.
Did you ever try to reach out to anyone else in your stalker's life?
No. And so that's the thing is the conversations that we had, every single thing out of her mouth was a complete total lie. And so then later when I found out who she was, all of the things, her her ex-husband was a pediatrician is what she told me. But it turns out he was in some sort of accident and had a traumatic brain injury and was mentally 12. Literally everything out of her mouth was a lie. And so I don't even know who her family is or was, or I know nothing about her. That's true.
Being that you have a great relationship with your ex-husband, have you guys ever chatted about it?
So I actually called him the other day and I had asked him what her last name was when they were dating, because I was trying to find the date of her previous stalking incident. And I told him that we were going to do this. And his response was, why would you do that? And again, and I told him, it'd be interesting for him to listen to, only because there's so much of what she did he has absolutely no idea about. But then that's him reliving a not great period in his life either. I don't know what went on with them. Maybe he thought I was trying to ruin it. I don't know. I don't know what his thought process was at that time. I think it was clear that I wasn't trying to get back with him. I think at that point my husband and I were already living together.
What do you want to see happen to her? You don't feel that she's out of your life for good. What would you like to see happen to her?
So, right, like you want to say, I would like her to get help, but the reality for me is therapy and medication is only as good as the information you give and whether or not you take your meds. And I honestly do not think that she believes she did anything wrong. So for her to go to therapy to try and get help, she will lie. It's not going to be like there need to be consequences for her that she has yet to have for her behavior and for what she does.
Claire, what did you know about stalking before you were stalked?
Absolutely nothing. To me, it was mostly male, female, if I'd heard anything about it. And then when we went to court, I think that was the big deal. It's like they didn't know what to do with us. It started out, it's like the single white female movie where, like, do you just want to be me? Do you just want to be, I don't know. Like, and so when I say she infiltrated my life and went to my hairdresser, she went in and specifically said, I want my hair color the exact same color as Claire's. And my hairdresser is trying to explain to her, like, you start out with a different color, like you're not going to achieve the exact color. The same thing with my manicurist. And so then it was like, I don't know what the obsession is. And at first it was, you want to be my friend. And I don't know why so bad you want to be my friend. Like, I'm not that great. Like, I'll tell you right now, I'm not that great. But then it was, and then the transition, and then do you want to be me because you want to look like me? And so I got braces as an adult, and she went to my orthodontist and got braces. It's just, When you say it out loud, it sounds crazy. My daughter was also seeing the orthodontist at the same time that I was as an adult. And she was trying to befriend people there, like employees at the orthodontist office, to get information about me. And one of the girls, like the scheduler, said she is buying them gifts to get information. And at that point, I went in and I talked to the doctor, and I told him, like, I don't know how to do this, but I never want to be here when she's here. And I never want my daughter to be here when she's here. So however you have to do that. And they set up this thing that when she would go to schedule an appointment, a stop sign would pop up on the screen, and it would say, do not schedule with Claire or her daughter. And it had to be a completely different day. But so then she went to, she would buy gifts for the people there, and she's trying to get personal information about me, where I'm currently living, whatever she could. And she would buy them Coach bags. She went big.
How has your life changed from going through this?
So for me, like I touched on earlier, I'm not a huge trust person. But what I've realized, like now when I look back on it, I don't make new friends because of this. And so the friends that I have, I've literally had my whole life. And if I make new friends, they are friends of my current friends. Like I don't make friends. So my husband, a friend of his, and the wife in social situations, fine. But I'm not comfortable because you have not been vetted through a current friend of mine, and I don't trust you. And then, and just, it's right. You meet somebody new and they start asking you questions about your life. I'm like, why? Why do you want to know that? And that part I hate.
What's life like for you now?
Well, she's been gone for 10 years, or quiet. My life is good. I still have the same job. I still, still married, still friends with my ex. My daughter's good.
What advice would you have for someone whose daughter's being stalked?
I don't know. I mean, and I was even trying to think, like, what did my mom do? And, I have a law enforcement background family. And I feel like I did what I was supposed to do. And that was the advice that came from my mom. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like every stalking situation is different. I don't think that mine is normal. And so, it's that whole thing. If it feels weird, it's weird.
Were you ever in fear for your life? Did you think that she would physically come after you?
That's hard to answer. There were certain times where, because so unstable, and again, I don't know, I'm not trained. I don't know what that's like. There were times where I thought that she would come after me. And if it wasn't her, the more frightening part was it would be someone else. Because if it was her, I would see it coming. But I mean, then that's it. That's anybody. Then it turns into, that's beyond be aware of your surroundings to me. And so, I had to make some changes. And so I didn't go anywhere by myself. I didn't walk to my car in the parking lot by myself. I do remember when I filed the police report, my husband was there and said, like, got in their face and said, if something happens to my wife, I will go to jail. And they're like, I know what you're saying. So I feel at that point, he thought something was going to happen. He thought she was at that point where if it wasn't her, she would send somebody and that she would try to hurt me.
Claire, Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
If anyone out there is in need of help or is a victim of stalking, please reach out. You can find a list of resources on our Instagram at Strictly Stalking Pod.
You can watch video of our episodes at youtube.com/strictlystalking.
And now we're on Patreon, where you can sign up for exclusive bonus episodes, live chat sessions, and check out show merchandise. That's patreon.com/strictlystalking.
And we'd like to thank our latest Patreon members, Shira, Megan, Samantha, and Peyton. Thank you so much for your support.
I'm Jake Deptula.
And I'm Jaimie Beebe. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Strictly Stalking.